Approximately 37 years ago, something happened in the United States that just about caused a revolution. People were in a complete uproar in this great land of ours. And if social media had existed at the time, it would have blown up, it would have exploded. No one saw this event coming, and when it did, many people simply went ballistic. For many, it was considered ridiculous, outrageous, and even stupid. A serious lapse in judgment, to say the least, many thought. And if it was something related to religion, it would have been akin to sacrilege or blasphemy. So what was it that happened? What made men and women across this country so angry and so upset? What caused this outrage? What was this dastardly deed that took place? Well, it was none other than the introduction of New Coke. That's right, New Coke. Many of you might remember this, and for those that don't, let me give you a little background. The Coca-Cola Company, they tried to improve their product by taking the bold step of tinkering with the formula of the most famous soft drink in the world. And almost no one was happy about this. Now, some people were probably genuinely disappointed at the taste. They just didn't like the taste. And some might have objected on principle, although what that principle might have been, I have no idea. And others, they just enjoyed joining in the feeding frenzy that kind of accompanies this kind of a thing. And before we knew it, the original Coke was back on the shelves under the new name Classic Coke. Now, this might seem like an extremely trivial thing, and truly it is. But I think it does point to something so true about human behavior, about the human experience, and it's this. Many of us simply don't like change, right? Be honest now. Many of us don't like change. We are creatures of habit. And for many of us, even little changes can be hard and difficult. Think about it. A new character joins our favorite TV show, and maybe we stop watching it because we don't like that character. It's just not that good anymore, the show. Our favorite restaurant tweaks its menu. Again, we've got questions. The local sports team maybe changes their uniforms. Or something that was once free, now there's a nominal fee attached to that. Okay? And how about if those of us that are married or have a significant other in our lives, that they go out and they change their hairstyle. They get a completely new look, if you will. What's the reaction often? We try to figure out how we can get them to go back to what it was before. Being very careful, though, not to get in trouble when we do that. And here's actually a word of advice for all of the men here this morning, and specifically the husbands. If your wife approaches you and asks you, honey, how do I look? How do I look? Don't fall into that trap. She's not asking your opinion. She's asking for your affirmation. So there's only one good answer, and that is, you look marvelous, dear. You look marvelous. Anything else, and you'll be digging a hole that you probably won't be able to get out of. I'm speaking of the voice of experience here. I remember before I gained this wisdom, one time my wife, as I said, approached me with that particular question. And I got a little bit too analytical, if you will, about it. She finally got exasperated and frustrated and she said, I don't even know why I asked you. You don't know anything about those kinds of things. But again, the point here is about change. We just don't like change. And I haven't even spoken really about big changes in our life, the big ones. For the reality is, all of us have to face all sorts of uncertainty in life. Ups and downs, joys and sorrows, things that go as planned or things that don't go as planned, as well as things that come out of nowhere. Good health, bad health, births, deaths, weddings, divorces. Life is just full of change, and often on a daily basis. Now, with all that being said, I'm sure you're wondering now, Deacon Joe, where are you going with all this? What's the point? Well, the point I'm trying to make this morning for you can be found in today's gospel, specifically this passage that I prayed about as I went through the readings this week. It struck me, it caught my eye, and it's this from the gospel. All that you see here, the days will come when there will not be left a stone upon another stone that will not be thrown down. Now, Jesus said those words to the people who were gazing upon the magnificence of the Jewish temple. And in one sense, he was sort of foretelling the second destruction of the temple, which would occur about 40 years later in 70 A.D. But I think in a very real sense, he could have said, and might have been saying, about anything on earth, about anything like this on earth, as any city, any town, any building, you name it. Jesus knew that none of these things were eternal. None would last. All would someday pass away. Every single tree, every rock, every living thing. And of course, as is always the case, Jesus really knew what he was talking about. For again, you see, change is about the only constant thing when it comes to things of this world. Change is about the only thing we can count on concerning our day-to-day lives. Almost nothing stays the same, except God and his love and his mercy and his providence and his saving power. All else is fleeting, subject to all sorts of forces, some natural, some random, some the result of our choices, some the result of others' choices. But God is not that way at all. God is constant. God is eternal. God's goodness, his compassion, care, concern, fidelity to each and every one of us never, never wavers. The truth is, and let me just digress a moment regarding the truth. And Jesus, even in today's gospel, gives us a warning about being deceived. I don't have to tell each and every one of you. All you have to do is look at the news, go out into the world. The society, the culture purports all kinds of alleged truths, right? All kinds of things that they say are true. And theories like, your truth is your truth and my truth is my truth. Wrong. Where do we find the truth? The truth can be found right here in Jesus' church, the Catholic Church, which he established over 2,000 years ago. When it comes to faith and morals, that's our guide, that's our resource, that's our consolation. The church. One other thing about truth. Venerable Archbishop Fulton Sheen, he had an interesting take relative to truth and lies. He said this often: the truth is the truth, even if no one believes it. And a lie is still a lie, even if everyone believes it. The wisdom of the saints, right? Magnificent, the wisdom of the saints. My brothers and sisters, this is good news for us. The truth that I want to share with you right now, and it's this for this morning. God is the only reality that we can completely and utterly trust and have confidence in. God is God, and therefore God is. And again, he is constant and he is internal. And as I said a moment ago, that's great news for us. Actually, the best news for us. It's our great consolation. For my brothers and sisters, again, looking at the gospel, Jesus says some very frightening things today. He describes some really scary consequences for following him. some pretty rough outcomes for those who follow where he leads. In fact, it's a very sobering picture that he paints. And while most of us would say, and I would include myself in this group, I really hope none of this kind of stuff happens to me, our personal experiences teach us that similar things really happen to us all the time. Our personal crosses, they might be different from those early disciples, but for each of us, they're still heavy nonetheless. Our personal crosses that we bear, such as broken relationships, lost jobs, addictions, physical and mental illnesses, death, these things really hurt. They really disappoint. They really shake us to our inner core. And in most cases, we usually can't do anything about them. Now, of course, when things are going well, we don't want anything to change. But that simply doesn't happen very often. As they say, life happens instead. And that means things change, sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. That's just the way life is. However, my brothers and sisters, one thing doesn't change. Again, our loving God. So we can take courage and have certainty about this, that God will never abandon us. God will never stop loving us. God will never stop embracing and drying our tears. All we have to do is allow God to be God. Let him remain our rock-solid foundation amidst a life of change, and more change. Simply put, let God love us. Let him love us. Again, without questions, all things will pass away, but God's love won't. And that means we won't either. My brothers and sisters, let's embrace our God, holding on to dear life, never letting go of him for one instance. And let's do this from this life all the way into eternity. May God bless you.